Hi guys, this is Az from Integrum Health and Wellness, and today we're discussing whether or not sugar is bad for you. So before we even get into whether or not it's good or it's bad for you, I think it's important that we understand what we're talking about when we say the word sugar. Sugar is actually quite a big and broad word for quite a few things. So let's just get into it with the four main types that you're going to encounter on a daily basis, and just so that you understand what we mean when we're talking about sugar. So, starting up at the top here with glucose. Glucose is the body's primary source of energy. By that I mean it's what the body likes to and can very quickly use to provide energy to all sorts of cells. So everything from blood to muscles, all around the body, brain cells use glucose as a primary source of energy. It's a simple sugar, so broken down simple sugar. When we eat things like carbohydrates, they are broken down into elements, and part of that will be glucose. It's the highest thing on the glycemic index. So if you've heard of the glycemic index, this is an index from 100 to 1 on how quickly your body releases insulin as a response to sugar. So glucose is the standard for 100. So maximum amount of sugar, maximum amount of insulin. And then as you go down the scale, obviously the glucose content drops significantly through the foods. Below glucose we have fructose. So fructose, also often referred to as fruit sugar. So this is the sugar that naturally occurs in most fruits, and we now obviously see it in modern society in things such as high fructose corn syrup, which is where we've artificially removed fructose and used it for its sweetness. It's a lot sweeter than glucose. So the real sweetness that you taste in your table sugar, which is what we're coming on to, comes from the fructose. Now, unlike glucose, which is metabolized throughout the body, fructose can only be managed by the liver. So it doesn't affect insulin production in the way that glucose does. It's all handled and directly metabolized in the liver. The issue with this, or what's being proven more and more with studies, is that the liver can get overworked by an exposure to fructose, and then you develop conditions such as a fatty liver. So we're going to talk a little bit more about which ones we want to be avoiding or how we want to be aware of them, but for now let's just go through the breakdowns. The next thing is sucrose. Now, the word sucrose you might not heard as much, but I guarantee that this is the one you've probably been exposed to the most. Sucrose is your table sugar. So if you buy your granulated sugar that you put in your tea, that you put in your coffee, this is called sucrose. Sucrose is a 50-50 mix of fructose and glucose. So 50% glucose, 50% fructose gives you sucrose. Keeping up? Good stuff. The last one we're going to talk about, again, we could go into more combinations of all of these, but these are the most commonly found in our foods, which is why these are the ones we're going to focus on today. The last one is lactose, and this has been quite a buzzword over the last 10 or so years with the introduction of lactose-free products and lactose enzymes, etc., that you can buy over the counter. So lactose is a milk sugar, as the name suggests, found in milk. It's broken down by lactase. Lactase is an enzyme in the body that is used to break down lactose into simpler sugars such as glucose that we can then absorb and use for energy. The issue that we're having, and the issue we're seeing more and become more prevalent, is that people have a lactase deficiency, in the sense that they are not producing enough lactase to manage to break down the lactose. The result of this is all sorts of problems with your digestive system, and this can get even worse for some people, causing rashes, issues with acne, etc. So the whole conversation of dairy in itself is a big topic, and I'll do more videos on that in the future. But for today, we're just focusing on the sugar element of it. So again, lactose is the milk sugar broken down by lactase into simpler sugars such as glucose for the body to absorb. So back to our initial question of whether or not sugar is bad for you. It's not a black and white answer of yes or no. That a lot of people would like to have you believe it's as simple as yes or no, but I think it depends on what you're talking about. It's hard to say that glucose is bad for you if it's our body's primary source of energy. If our body likes and very readily and very easily processes it and uses it for all sorts of bodily functions and has done for hundreds of years. The same for fructose. Now, although fructose is metabolized in the liver, and we spoke about the condition of fatty liver that it can cause, it's found in fruits such as strawberries, apples, bananas, all these things that are we really trying to say to our children, the next generation, that we don't want them eating because we don't want them to consume any fructose. Sucrose, I think we can quite safely say, is what's known as an empty food. It doesn't really provide, in talking of table sugar, any nutrients of any real value to you. You can get glucose from much healthier sources. You can get the benefits of foods containing fructose by eating fruits. Sucrose is almost the worst of the two. So you're getting the issues with insulin from consuming too much glucose, and you're getting the issues of consuming too much fructose from the liver, and none of the health benefits of the foods that might be associated with those things. It's refined into just the sugar, and therefore that's really not going to be doing you any good. Lactose completely comes down to whether or not your body can tolerate it. It's been said that nearly all of us are in some way resistant to lactose, so we don't really cope well of digesting it. And again, I'll talk more in the future about the consumption of dairy, the dairy industry, and where you can make an educated decision on your consumption of that at all. But the bottom line with things such as lactose is that if you can digest it, you can consume it. If you can't digest it, you can either opt for one of the alternatives, such as lactose-free milk, or you can purchase lactase tablets, which would mean that you put the digestive enzyme into your system prior to consuming foods containing lactose. So really, the bottom line, what this all comes down to is where we get our sugars from. Things such as refined sugars, high fructose corn syrup, sucrose, granulated sugars, and all of these things that we consume, these are obviously not good for you and things that we want to be avoiding as much as possible. These are going to be really present in processed foods, in sparkling drinks, fizzy drinks such as Coke, lemonades, etc. We might find these even in foods we'd consider healthy, such as yogurts and smoothies, granola bars, cereals. All of these things contain high levels of hidden sugars that do us no favors. So where do we want to get sugars from? Well, healthy natural carbohydrate sources such as whole wheat grains, potatoes, all of these things that our body naturally likes to break down and digest, and it can take the glucose as energy and it can metabolize it and use it for functions within the body. Fructose in high amounts is dangerous for you. It's not good to be consumed, but where you could drink 6 apples down in a smoothie, I challenge you to try and eat 6 whole apples in a sitting. The thing that makes the difference here is the fiber. So in the skin of fruits, especially in the pulp as well, there is a high concentration of fiber. And this is used as a natural way of subsiding your appetite, to stop you overindulging in things such as fructose. So you eat 1 apple, it will contain some fructose, which your liver can quite happily manage. But if you drink a 1 litre bottle of Coke, you're going to consume a whole lot more fructose, and your liver is going to struggle with the function of metabolizing it. So don't get bogged down by sugar. Don't feel the need to go completely sugar-free if that's something that you don't feel you're capable of doing. But do start making smarter choices about where you consume your sugar from. Consider natural sweetening alternatives such as stevia that allow you to still get the sweetness in your foods without needing to consume so much refined sugar. This is Az from Integrum Health and Wellness, wishing you well.